Sophia Mitchell, a 35-year-old woman, had a miserable childhood, living in a family that always considered her a burden. Her parents owned a small medical practice in suburban New York and placed all their hopes on her younger sister Madison, who was 6 years younger than Sophia. Since childhood, Madison was always pampered, while Sophia was looked down upon and pushed aside. Her parents always thought that Sophia was inferior, had no future, and was not worthy of investing in education. They told her bluntly, "You are just a useless child. After graduating from high school, go to work and send money home. College is only for Madison." Despite being treated unfairly, Sophia never gave up on her dream. After graduating from high school, she worked many part-time jobs while secretly saving money to be able to pay for college herself. No one in her family knew that she enrolled in a community college, and later won a scholarship to study business administration. During those years, Sophia learned to be independent, building her own life without the help of her family. Over the years, Sophia not only graduated from college, but also founded a company specializing in providing food for hospitals and medical facilities. Thanks to her hard work and determination, she brought her company to develop strongly, becoming a successful entrepreneur. When she married Daniel Carter, a famous doctor in the medical field, her life turned a new page, completely free from the shadow of the past. An unexpected encounter happened when Sophia and her husband attended a colleague's wedding and accidentally met her biological family. When her parents and Madison discovered that Sophia was not only successful but also the wife of a famous doctor, their attitude immediately changed. They tried to pull her back, hoping to receive help when the family clinic was on the verge of bankruptcy, but Sophia flatly refused. She understood that those who had abandoned her could not be called family. Her success was not due to their help, but to her own efforts and strong will. Looking back, Sophia no longer feels pain or resentment. She only feels relieved that she has finally shaken off the past and built the happy life she deserves. Sophia Mitchell never thought that one day she would face the people who once rejected her, but fate has a way of arranging the strangest encounters. After many years of trying to rise from adversity, from a girl who was looked down upon by her family, she became the CEO of a hospital food supply company. She has a solid career, a loving husband, Dr. Daniel Carter, and a happy little family. She has let go of the past, but the past will not let her go easily. At the wedding of one of Daniel's colleagues, Sophia unexpectedly met Madison's parents and younger sister. When they saw her, they did not hide the familiar contempt in their eyes, but when they learned that she was the wife of a famous doctor, their attitude changed immediately. "Sophia, my daughter, where have you been all these years? Our family missed you so much," her mother said softly, a blatant pretense that Sophia could easily detect. She was no longer the innocent girl from back then, expecting every bit of love from them. Madison, who once proudly believed that she would be more successful, now no longer maintained the same confident appearance as before. When Sophia revealed the truth that Madison had never graduated from high school and was only doing simple office work, the whole audience fell silent. Noah, Madison's husband, also a doctor, stood still, his eyes filled with disappointment. "Madison? Are you lying to me?" His voice was hoarse, as if he couldn't believe what he had just heard. And Sophia's parents, who had once been proud of their family's reputation, were now too ashamed to argue. When Sophia left them, they had believed that she would never amount to anything, but here she stood, not only successful, but also living a fulfilling life. While they were struggling with the consequences of their own actions, their family practice, once the pride of their family, had gradually lost customers over the years due to the bad reputation of how they treated their patients and their own daughter. They didn't realize that what they had sown had become retribution, little by little, pushing them to the brink of collapse. Noah looked at Madison with heavy eyes. Their marriage was already on the rocks, and this was just the last straw. Madison, who had always wanted to surpass Sophia, was now a shadow of herself. She looked at Sophia, trembling, wondering how the sister she once despised could achieve what she desired. "Why you?" Madison muttered, but Sophia no longer cared about that question. She looked at them. The people who had denied her existence, now begging for a little favor. But Sophia owed them nothing. She knew that if she reached out to them now, they would use her again as before. she had learned the most important lesson of all. True family was not those who shared her blood, but those who loved and respected her. "We are no longer related," Sophia said softly but firmly. "I used to want everyone's love, but now I realize I don't need it anymore." As she left the party with Daniel, she felt lighter than ever. She didn't feel gloating, didn't need revenge. What happened was not her doing, but the inevitable result of her past choices. Justice was served, without her intervention. A few months later, Sophia heard that Noah and Madison had divorced, and her parents' clinic had officially closed. They tried to contact her, but this time no one had any control over her life. Sophia didn't turn back. She had moved on to a new chapter, and this time, it was a story she wrote herself. Sophia Mitchell once thought that she would forever be bound by her painful past with her biological family. But after a fateful encounter at Madison's wedding, she realized that real family is not those who share her blood, but those who love and respect her. After leaving the party that day, she no longer cared about Madison's reproaches or jealous eyes. She also didn't feel happy about the collapse of her parents, who used to see her as a burden. The only feeling she had at that moment was freedom. She had finally severed the ties that bound her to a family that had never truly loved her. Returning home, she saw her son, 6-year-old Ethan, playing in the living room. Looking at the bright smile on Ethan's face, Sophia felt more at peace than ever. Daniel walked over, placing a hand on her shoulder, his eyes full of understanding. "Are you okay?" he asked softly. She nodded, then smiled unconsciously. "You know, I used to think I could never have a real family. But now, I know that I do." Daniel squeezed her hand gently, as if to affirm. "Family is not where you were born, but where you are loved." Sophia understood that her past did not define who she was. She was no longer the little girl rejected by her family, labeled as useless. Now she was a mother, a wife, a successful woman, someone who had created a real family of her own. Later, when she heard that her parents were trying to contact her, Sophia no longer felt hurt or angry. She only felt pity for them, those who never knew how to appreciate true family. But she was no longer responsible for them. She had her own complete family, where love and respect were always present, where she could be herself. After all that she had been through, Sophia Mitchell understood that a person's value did not lie in the recognition of others, but in her own efforts and determination. She was once a child abandoned by her family, labeled useless, deprived of the opportunity to study, but she never let those harsh words define her life. Looking back on the journey, Sophia clearly saw every difficult step she had overcome. The day she left home at the age of 19, she had only a small amount of money in her pocket from her part-time job. She had no support from her family, but she had a strong will and a fierce desire to prove that she was not the failure they had said. During those years, Sophia worked tirelessly, from restaurant waitress, cashier, to office assistant. Despite the hard work, she still took the time to study, accumulate knowledge, and gradually build a foundation for her future. She earned her own money to go to university, graduated on her own, and kept growing. When faced with challenges, she did not back down. She failed, felt hopeless, but never gave up. That is the reason why she succeeded. Now, with a happy family and a solid career, Sophia no longer needs the recognition of her parents or younger sister. She does not need anyone to acknowledge her worth, because the life she has built is the clearest proof of that. Even though she has moved on from her painful past, Sophia Mitchell cannot deny that the traumas of her childhood still leave traces in her soul. The years of being despised, considered a burden, and the harsh words of her parents once made her believe that she was truly worthless. But instead of letting those wounds drag her down, Sophia used them as motivation to move forward, to prove that she did not need the acceptance of her biological family to succeed. In the early years of starting her career, she faced countless difficulties. She had no relationships, no one to support her, nothing but herself and her strong will. There were nights when she was exhausted after work, days when she doubted herself, but she never stopped. She laid the first bricks for her career with her own hands and intelligence, step by step building the company that she is proud of today, and most importantly, she proved what her parents had denied: she was not a failure. She was not a failure. With $25, when she heard that her parents and sister were in trouble, Sophia did not gloat. Justice had come, but not in the way she expected. It came from the consequences of the wrong choices they had made. She had learned something important. A person's worth does not lie in the recognition of others, but in the path they built themselves. And for Sophia, that path had never been brighter than now. Sophia Mitchell never wanted revenge, or gloated over the downfall of her parents and sister. She did not need to see them fall to feel victorious, because her greatest victory was the life she had now, a life she had built herself, without needing acceptance or support from anyone. The wounds of the past may have left scars, but they no longer defined her. She was no longer the little girl who had been left hungry for spilling a little water, no longer the child who had been compared and rejected, no longer the one who had been kicked out of the house without anyone caring. She was now a strong woman, a successful businesswoman, a mother who loved her son with all her heart. She had created a real family where love was not conditional. When she received the news that her parents had lost everything, that Madison had been abandoned by her family and was living in despair, Sophia just sighed. If they had treated her differently, perhaps she would have been willing to help, but now she was no longer responsible for them. She was not the one who had failed them, it was their greed, selfishness and prejudice that had led them to this end. Sophia looked up at her house, where her son was happily playing, and her husband was waiting. This was her family. This was the life she had chosen, and for the first time in her life, she felt completely free. The stories of Sophia Mitchell and many others show us that a person's worth does not lie in the recognition of others, but in their own efforts and determination. When abandoned by their family, when looked down upon, the most important thing is not to resent or seek revenge, but to stand up for themselves, to build the life they want. We need to persevere, constantly learn, and not let the past define the future. True happiness comes from knowing how to love yourself and those who deserve it. What do you think about Sophia Mitchell's story? Have you ever encountered similar situations in your life? Share your opinion below. Don't forget to follow the channel to continue receiving meaningful stories about life, family, and rising from adversity.